How you doing, YouTube? Matt Massa Beer Reviews back with a little bit of Kane Brewing up in this piece in the form of their stacking casks. This be a rye barrel aged old ale, finished in apple brandy barrels, and this be blend number 4, 14.2% alcohol by volume. And this comes courtesy my boy Flash Gordon. Yeah, he sends off these bottles every now and then. Sometimes I post them, sometimes I don't. If I don't post them, it's because I open it because I was a little too tipsy, because that's what I like to do with big beers every now and then. And I made sure I reviewed this one sober as a, what do they call it? Sober as a judge? And the way the United States is working right now, judges ain't that sober. So anyway, so this one will definitely get posted. Unless my camera fucks up, my audio's working, it's recording. If something happens, I don't know. We know. Oh, look at how fucking shitty that glass. Can you see that? It's like a water spot on there. I'm still gonna pour it though. Man, Dirty Glass Mafia coming in hot. This is not a Kane beer glass, but I love this glass shape for old ales. It's like one of my favorite shapes, and it's the only one I have of this shape. I used to have another one that was clear, but it broke. So I am using it, so you're not getting proper glassware here. Label-wise, it's Kane. I mean, it's a little bit modernized from what they typically do, but it's that nice kind of, like, it's not even linen. It's almost like stone kind of linen, the way it comes off. And just a little bit more graphic than what they typically do, but I can get down with it. Beer-wise, I mean, that looks like what I want an aged old ale to look like. By that, I mean a lot of old ales that tend to come off a little bit lighter than that. But that's what I want from a bit of time now. I am assuming this is this year's version, blend 4. There's no date on this bottle, but blend 4, be able to figure that out pretty quick. But when you're talking about not only aging it in a rye barrel, but also finishing it in a brandy barrel, it definitely has some time on it. So yeah, look at how nice that looks. Pretty, dark. Let's get a nose. I've always been a huge fan of Kane's barrel aging program. I think their barrel aging program is one of the best in the country, to be perfectly honest with you. The stuff they can do with the multiple layers of beers and different kind of spirits and whatnot is quite fantastic, and this one is no different. I mean, you can definitely get a whiskey spiciness off of this. So you definitely get that rye barrel at play. Now, you get this little bit of drizzle of this nice kind of apple brandy sweetness on it too, which is quite nice. But the best part about their barrel aging program, and one of the reasons why I love them so much, the beer is there. The beer is there, and it's not overpowered by either of those spirits or either of those spirits barrels. And that you get this nice rich, jammy, not even jammy, like caramelly, sugar daddy, slightly jammy kind of, like, it's more barley wine than old ale for me, but you know, sometimes that can be blurred. The lines there can be blurred, but it has this rich, nice kind of caramel, like I said, figgy, datey kind of sugar daddy thing going on, which is that accelerated version of that old ale. You know, typically old ale is going to go from your kind of, you know, caramelized sugar to your burnt brown sugars to your date and figs to your sugar daddies to your raisinets. In a perfect world, that's how it goes for me. And this is already at that kind of sugar daddy range, at least in the nose, and that's the barrel aging process at work. But then you get that nice spicy whiskey spirit in there. Nothing too crazy, but it's there. It's not overpowering the beer, but it's not underneath. Same thing goes for that brandy barrel. Bring that nice rich apple brandy in there. Not a huge barrel component on either of these. You know, a little bit of soft vanilla, maybe a little coconut, stuff like that. No big char component, at least in the nose. But it smells absolutely fantastic. Let's dive in. Cheers. I like it. I thought it was going to be a little bit different in the taste, and I was kind of hoping it was going to be something more than me just experiencing what it is, which is kind of a poop thing to do to a beer, especially when you do these kind of videos. That rye barrel is definitely kind of the leader in the clubhouse here. It has this punch of spice at the beginning. It's not super sharp. There's a bit of roundness to it, but you can tell this is a rye whiskey barrel, not a bourbon barrel. Conversely, the apple brandy barrel is there, but just a little bit smaller. So that me kind of championing, there's an ing that's supposed to go to the end of that, championing the balance between the beer and both barrels. It is more kind of the beer just a little bit below. Nah, it's probably as close to in line with that spicy wryness, but that apple brandy is a little bit off to the side. It's present. It's not going to be missed. But it lacks a little bit more time to it. I know that's kind of a broken record for me when it comes to these kind of old ales and barley wines. But I believe, again, broken record, I believe a year or two is going to do this beer infinitely well. Again, and I say this, broken record, I'm not the biggest proponent of aging barrel-aged beers, let alone multiple barrel-aged beers. The more components you add to a beer outside of your core 4 elements, the more beer can go sideways over time. So I wouldn't say I wouldn't age one of these for 10, 20 years. I'd do that just because that's stuff that I would do. But I'd have less confidence in it finishing into something that would be awesome with that amount of time. For me, barrel-aged beers, again, more specifically, multiple barrel-aged beers, tend to be a couple of year endeavor. And that time usually does it quite good, a year or two, even 5 years or so. But once you get after that point, there's just so much risk per reward on those. But I definitely think a year or two on this turns this beer into fantastic land. Now, what are we dealing with now? It is essentially a rich but didn't get to sugar daddy level yet kind of English barley wine or old ale. It gives you more of that in the nose than it does in the taste. What you're getting now is kind of a soft, semi kind of brown sugar kind of component, a little bit of caramel, maybe a hint of figginess, but there's volume to be had from that in the time. So I think time brings that to a head, that rice spiciness. You might lose a little bit of that spicy edge on it, which would be a little bit of a bummer, but I'd appreciate the trade-off at times, so I'm cool with that. And I think it just becomes a little bit less spicy. I don't think it'll drop out all the way, and be nice. I think that apple brandy actually might elevate a little bit, become a little bit kind of, not necessarily that it's going to get bigger, with some of the muting of a little bit of the edges of the beer, that apple brandy comes up a little bit and ends up being just a skosh sweeter, which I think would be a nice thing. And I think it'll turn into something fantastic. I'm not going to sit here and tell you this is not a great beer now. It's tasty. It's going to get drank. I like this quite a bit. But when I dive into these beers, which are pretty much my beers, if I'm really going to kind of lean into one style being my favorite of all time, it's going to be old ale barley wine. And there's just something about it that speaks to me. I feel like I have a good radar when it comes to how these beers will age, and I think this is going to be a really nice one, and not a long haul ager, like I said, ad nauseum. Too much probably. I think you give this a couple of years, you're talking about something amazing. So, like I say with all beers that are ageable, hopefully. Mr. Flash Gordon has a couple of these, and hopefully he's drank one already, and hopefully has one to save, if not 1 or 2 or 3, because this is the perfect kind of beer to get a set of 4. Drink one fresh, drink one in a year, drink one in 3 years, drink one in 5 years, and I think you're gonna have a really good time experiencing that kind of journey and that kind of cellared vertical. Very fun stuff. And thank you very much, dude, for sending off. Very cool of you. Fun beer. Is it one of the better old ales that I've had as late? Even with me kind of leaning into this is okay, but it's going to get better. Yeah, it's up there. It's probably close, if not on Mount Rushmore. That's the thing. With me loving old ales and me loving these beers so much, I think I tend to be just a little bit harder on them. I'm more familiar with them. It's something I really, really, really do love. So it's not so much that this beer isn't fantastic. It is. Maybe I grade on a curve. I don't know. Value and availability, I have no idea. Kane's pricing usually isn't too horrible. This beer would have been $18 in a 750 5 years ago. Now it's probably $18 in a 500 milliliter bottle, I guess. 16 maybe. Flash, let us know what's what, and leave you with, if you like what, will you like this beer? If you like old ales and barrels, more specifically, who would have thunk it? Apple brandy barrels and rye whiskey barrels. If you like barrel-aged old ales, barrel-aged barley wine, you like great barrel-aged beer, and you think Kane does a great job with barrel-aging beer, because this is quintessentially Kane. I would hope if I were to drink one of Kane's barrel-aged beers blind, I think I might guess them. I think I've been drinking them that much. I remember drinking my first Kane beer. It was a barrel. Was it a barrel age? No, it wasn't barrel age, but a Kane beer on a stickerless bottle, randomly in somewhere in New Jersey. It was pretty fun stuff, and it's cool to see where they've come now after several years. So yeah, if you like barrel aged beer like this. So there you go, another review in the books. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Down there if you want to talk about it. Massive Beers if you want to check me out doing the social media stuff. Beer Massif if you want to check me out doing the whole podcasting thing. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the review. Hopefully enjoying a little bit of Kane right now. Hopefully see you next time. Cheers.